This is Plant-Based Briefing, How to Manage the Emotional Toll of Animal Advocacy by Dr. Tani Khara at animalfreescienceadvocacy.org. And I'm Marian Erickson, host of this curated content plant-based podcast, where I narrate a variety of articles on healthy, compassionate, and sustainable living with permission in about 10 minutes or less every weekday. Think of it as your daily dose of inspiration to stay the course with this lifestyle. So now let's get to today's Plant-Based Briefing. How to Manage the Emotional Toll of Animal Advocacy by Dr. Tani Khara at animalfreescienceadvocacy.org. Self-care is the ability to remain empathetic to others without suffering from compassion fatigue. Near the heart of the city, amidst the hustle and bustle, there exists a small sanctuary, a modest animal shelter where I spend several weekends. Here, the barks and purrs convey stories of hope, rescue, and safety. Amidst all of this, there is also a silent struggle, compassion fatigue, which often forms part of the emotional toll of animal advocacy. What is compassion fatigue? Compassion fatigue is the cost of caregiving for others in need and distress. Studies describe compassion fatigue as comprising secondary traumatic stress, STS, and cumulative burnout. STS, also known as vicarious trauma, is a stress reaction which occurs when a person is indirectly exposed to traumatic events through hearing about or witnessing others' experiences. Burnout is a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion brought on by ongoing stress and overwork. This can often result in one's decreased personal and professional ability to function effectively. Compassion fatigue, or CF, can thus be described as a state of mental and physical exhaustion characterized by a significant diminished ability to nurture. Individuals working in the fields of animal care and advocacy tend to be at risk for compassion fatigue. Why are individuals working in animal care and advocacy more likely to suffer from compassion fatigue? Many individuals are drawn to this profession as a calling, i.e., a pull toward work deemed ethically and personally meaningful, rather than work simply being a means to an end. That said, many workers in this domain commonly also face the caring-killing paradox, where they provide ongoing care to animals and form attachments, but can also be asked to euthanize the very animals they care for. This can be an incredibly challenging and painful experience. In addition, carers often work with sick, injured, and dying animals while simultaneously needing to work with distressed and frustrated pet owners. In Australia, while people are accustomed to healthcare costs being covered by Medicare, this does not extend to animal care. Consequently, pet owners can be shocked and upset when faced with high veterinary bills. Workers in this space, carers, advocates, and volunteers, also juggle limited resources, i.e. money and time, while often having to support many animals in need. They also report occasional to frequent feelings of isolation and lack of support in their workplaces. Recognizing the signs. Compassion fatigue can creep up gradually and often silently. I personally noticed this after months of volunteering and also noted several fellow advocates having similar such experiences. Some discussed feeling overwhelmed and ruminating over cases that could not be rescued, supported, or helped. Others mentioned experiencing irritability, sadness, and a sense of hopelessness that persisted longer than usual. A few others highlighted experiencing vivid flashbacks or suffering and/or disturbing dreams at night. Many also spoke about their enthusiasm for their work gradually dwindling. A study that I'm conducting among Australian animal care workers and advocates on mental well-being revealed similar such sentiments pertaining to compassion fatigue. Quote, "I joined the profession because I love animals, but the constant cycle of suffering and euthanasia is overwhelming. It's hard to keep caring so deeply," unquote, a vet surgeon. Quote, "I used to go home and think about how I could help the animals more. Now I just want to forget everything the moment I clock out. It's like I have nothing left to give," unquote, a shelter worker. Detachment. The other strategy is detachment, i.e. physically and mentally disconnecting oneself from the animals, i.e. avoiding thinking about or treating them as pets, and having clear boundaries between work and personal life, for example, not bringing work home, limiting time spent talking and thinking about work outside of the work setting. Some action-oriented examples for detachment can involve things like journaling and then putting the journal away, thus maintaining a mental barrier between work and personal life. A cleansing ritual is another strategy for detachment, which might involve washing hands, lighting a candle, or going for a walk, all of which can help workers cope with difficult cases. Building a supportive community at the workplace. There's incredible strength in community, particularly among people who empathize with frustration, sadness, and a sense of overwhelm. To this point, prior research indicates many animal care workers can value support from their co-workers even more highly than from friends and family, because they feel that friends and family not working in this sector may often fail to understand the unique challenges of animal care work. It is why team cohesion, knowledge sharing, and positive interactions with peers tend to be reported as aspects of the work that are enjoyed most by workers in this sector. Below are more self-care techniques. Value self and commit to self-care and monitor your self-care plan. Refocus on the rewards of the job. Be aware of the dangers of the job. Maintain physical health, for example, sleep, diet, and exercise. Nurture relationships, create support systems within and outside of work. Maintain healthy boundaries. Monitor and change maladaptive thoughts, for example, unrealistic expectations. Practice healthy escapes, for example, breaks during the day, vacation, recreation, and avoid unhealthy escapes, for example, substance abuse and isolation. Improve work environment, for example, workload and sense of community. Undergo personal therapy. Engage in spiritual practices, reclaim the mission and meaning of your work, and engage in professional development activities, for example, attend conferences and consult colleagues. The animal advocate is not alone. It is important to recognize the journey of the advocate is filled with highs and lows, from happiness of watching a once abused animal slowly rebuild its trust towards humans to the heartbreak of losing another from neglect or cruelty. The work an advocate undertakes is invaluable, but so is their own well-being. Thus, understanding and managing compassion fatigue is about ensuring the advocate can continue to be effective for those who need them most. This involves a conscious effort to recognize the signs of compassion fatigue, implement strategies for self-care, and seek support when needed. In this regard, by taking care of oneself, the advocate can ensure that their ability to care for others does not come at their own expense. Quote, "The expectation that we can be immersed in suffering and loss daily and not be touched by it is as unrealistic as expecting to be able to walk through water without getting wet," unquote. Dr. Naomi Rachel Remen. You just listened to How to Manage the Emotional Toll of Animal Advocacy by Dr. Tani Khara at animalfreescienceadvocacy.org. And I'm your host, Marian Erickson, and the trauma is real, whether you are an animal care worker or an advocate, as the article is titled. Just vegan trauma is a real thing. I'll link some related episodes. For vegan trauma specifically, check out 859, 5 Keys to Thriving Emotionally as a Vegan, 737 and 738, Why Vegans Won't Tell You They're Vegan, 555, Awakening Compassion, 166, Vystopia, The Anguish of Being Vegan in a Non-Vegan World, and 66, The Vegan's Trauma. And then for veterinarians specifically, I recommend following the organization Our Honor at ourhonor.org. And I will link some veterinarian-related episodes in the show notes, including 308, A Veterinary Student Receives an F for Following Her Conscience, and A Guide to Conscientious Objection. Those are from Our Honor. Also, 581, As a vet, I would protect all animals from harm, but the law won't let me. And 467, A Bovine Sophie's Choice. So check those out and please share this episode with anyone who might benefit, and thanks for listening.